What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of reacting to your comments. And once again, you guys have been brilliant reacting to all our content over the last week. So let's get into the best comments.
We've got, first of all, Kubernetes Enjoyer says, maybe stop spreading this nonsense, playing or not playing for Ange. These players playing for the club, not someone behind the wheel. Ben keeps spinning this BS for months at this point. Get to the end of the season and look for a new coach. What good is this gossip brings to this club at all?
So is he Ange out, that guy?
I don't know if he's Ange out, but he doesn't like the gossip.
He's saying get to the end of the season and get rid of the coach.
But he doesn't like the gossip about whether the players are playing or not playing for Ange.
I think it's a valid talking point. Is it not a valid talking point at this point in time?
Don't know. You tell me.
I think it is. I mean, I don't see why it isn't, because the team are obviously performing really badly, injuries or no injuries. We're starting to get players back now. Still not performing great, albeit it's got a little bit better. So I think it's a valid talking point. I mean, do you not?
I mean, yeah, if that's what you think. I mean, but I think we always get bogged down in psychology of players and all these different things. Is this guy playing for Ange? He's not playing for Ange? Well, no one really knows, really. Mm-hmm. That's the truth. True. So I guess the gossip, what does it help speculating about whether that is true or whether it's not true?
Whether it helps or not, it's a talking point, and people like talking about it, and people like speculating and coming up with their own narratives and own opinions on what's actually going on.
What good does it do?
I mean, it doesn't do good or no good. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference to anything.
Well, it just I think people can create narratives based on very little evidence. Yeah, based on assumptions, and I think that's the point.
Football's all about, is the storylines, the talking points, people bringing up their own opinions. I mean, me suggesting that maybe certain players are not playing for the manager is not exactly going to make too much of a difference.
No, he just doesn't like the gossip.
Well, you don't have to watch the gossip.
Watch a lot 919 says, our supporters believe it's down to the team to lift them. On the continent, the supporters lift the team. Our stadium is full of tourists and middle-class families. We only have a couple of songs, and one of those songs belongs to Southampton. Going to the Tottenham Stadium is like the Emirates now. One last thing, Ange out. In terms of that first point, our supporters believe it's down to the team to lift them up, and on the continent, and it's the opposite.
I think it should be the opposite. I think when I used to start, when I first started going to football, it was all about the fans lifting the team, and the fans are always there to support the team through thick and thin. And I think kind of the modern day support has turned into the complete opposite. The modern day support has turned into, well, if the team are not playing well, then why should the fans sing? When I don't really agree with that whatsoever. I think the fans should always be there as a 12th man, whether you're playing badly or not.
So how do we change that?
You can't change that. It's what society is now. Unfortunately, that's what football fans are, particularly in England. I think it's different.
But you're saying it on the continent. You're saying it's different.
Yeah, I think it's different outside of England.
So you can change it, surely.
I just think society's changed in England, and I think that's the way it is. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to change. However much you want to change it, there's been stuff that have been going on in the stadium to try and improve the atmosphere, whether the club have helped or not. Even when they had a section, it didn't really improve things that much. And fans make a concerted effort. Certain sections of the fans do make a concerted effort to try and change this kind of way of thinking and this kind of way of supporting the club. But I think it's fighting a losing battle, because I just think society and football fandom has changed in this country massively over the past 20 years.
Yeah, and I think on the continent, obviously, maybe the prices for tickets aren't as much, and you get a different kind of demographic of fans who go as well. And I think there's a more holistic approach with the club and the fans to try and create a much better atmosphere every game. And in this country, it's very, very different. Fans are treated much more like consumers. And because of that, the fans treat going to games much more like customers rather than fans a lot of the time. And obviously, not all fans are the same. There are fans at Tottenham who try to, start songs and regardless of the result, try to get the atmosphere going. But unfortunately, it's not enough. We need a whole massive set. We need thousands of thousands all together doing the same thing, and unfortunately it's just not the case at Tottenham right now.
I remember when I first started going, I went to a game Southend at home in the cup. Do you remember Huddleston scored, and I think they were straight from the free kick, right? He scored from a layoff free kick, whatever. And you know, if you had that specific game right now, like we played like a League Two side in the early rounds of the cup, the atmosphere will be dead. You know, be great to go see there, get the point, move into the next round and move on. But the atmosphere won't be great, right? Because it's not the massive game. Back then, the stadium was rocking for 90 minutes, and that's what I miss about going to football massively. It feels like now at Tottenham, it's only a big atmosphere if it's a massive game, and even then it's hit and miss.
Yeah, agreed. And even then it's about whether we're playing well or not. Yeah. I think by and large, that's what it comes down to a lot at the moment, and that's because I said the dynamic between the club and the fans, where on the continent is different. John McCrea 7094 says, you have to give the fans something to get excited and shout about. This side are not doing that. Fans pay top dollar to watch their team. The least they can expect is some guts and passion for the majority of the season. That has been non-existent. I'm sure the fans will get behind the team on Thursday, but then up to the team to repay the support with good performance and result.
I mean, that is the case, but it shouldn't be the case, if you know what I mean. Like, you have to give the fans something to get excited about, which is true. You do need to give the fans something to get excited about. But I also feel like the team could also feed off the energy of the fans. So I think it works both ways. Obviously, the team is struggling right now. They've been struggling for a long time. And what a great thing it would be if the Spurs fans just put all of that to one side and straight from the off just start singing, give them everything from the fans. Surely the players will feed off that.
Do fans, I guess it comes to a question, do fans have a responsibility in the stadium to try and drive the team on, or is it just a case of we've spent our money to go watch the game, we can kind of do what we want? Or do you feel like supporters do have responsibility when you're in the stadium to try and support the team?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, you're paying obviously all this money, crazy amounts of money, to go and watch Tottenham, and you are entitled to do what you want. But on the other hand, I do feel that it is a responsibility of fans that if you're going to the ground, you've got a job to do. And you've got a job to support the team, and you've got a job to drive the team on. I think, I used to feel like this. I don't really feel like this too much anymore because of the way kind of football has moved on. But it's a privilege to go watch your football club, and it's a privilege to have. I really genuinely believe that what it used to be like is you pay your money, but you still have a job on your hands. You've got a job to drive on that team, and it just doesn't feel like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember I used to go to. When I used to go to Spurs, let's say I went to a game and you weren't there. I mean, rare that would be. But I remember after the game, one of the first questions you would always ask me wasn't about the game. It'd be, how was the atmosphere? And now that conversation, we don't really, not us personally, but as in football, that conversation is not really done anymore. It's more about how do we play, all this kind of stuff, because, you know, we just kind of given these days the atmosphere just is not of interest as much.
Yeah, because basically I know what it's going to be like every week, so I don't need to ask you that question when I'm not going. And that's like the main thing that drew me into football was the atmosphere. That's what I loved about. Obviously, I love the game, but that's why you go to football to be part of that atmosphere, to experience the atmosphere. And if you're not going to experience the atmosphere, like, you may as well just watch it at home. That's what it's coming to these days.
A lot of people are taking that decision, I feel. Pork Cylinder says, serving up shit constantly while paying some of the highest ticket prices on earth and fans aren't happy. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So he's just putting it down to fans not being happy because of how we're playing. But, you know, as you say, like previously, like when we used to go in the early days and we weren't exactly a great team then, and the atmosphere would still be a lot better than it is now. So is it just a case of, you know, because of the high ticket prices, because of how the hierarchy have treated the fans, that's maybe why a lot of the fans have become distant on that front, probably?
I feel like as well, not just the high ticket prices, I feel like the atmosphere has gone down in line with expectancy. As the expectancy's gone up and maybe the team don't deliver, the atmosphere has gone down. Like, for example, the Martin Yole days, like the start of the Martin Yole days, even who was the manager before Martin Yole?
Well, it was Santini, Hoddle.
Yeah, so like in those days when Spurs weren't a great club, obviously Martin Yole was the start of things and we were getting better at that point. But in that era, atmosphere was good pretty much week in, week out. And then when Harry Redknapp came in and the kind of expectancy kind of went through the roof at that point, not through the roof, but it got a lot more. I felt like if Spurs were to have a poor performance or a poor result, the atmosphere would just be dead. And I feel like as expectancy has gone up, the atmosphere has kind of suffered from it.
And I think expectations will go up because of, first of all, we've been in Europe so many times now, the expectation is we'll be there. But also the expectation goes up when the ticket price and all these things go up and you're paying some of the highest prices in Europe. You go there expecting to see, be entertained and see good performances. And when you're not seeing it, it seems as like you're being shortchanged rather than the team kind of obviously either failing or whatever, and the team not doing what they not winning the game because of other things. It's almost as if like that you're being shortchanged for the money you spent. Where it didn't kind of it wasn't always like that. Like back in the day when we used to go and we used to lose, you didn't feel like, oh, I've just wasted all that money, depending on obviously how the game went. But now it kind of feels like, well, I've spent all this money and we've lost. I shouldn't have spent the money, kind of thing.
I feel like back then, like even win, lose or draw, you were still able to have a good time. Don't get me wrong, you still come home depressed if you lose or you don't get a good result, but you always would have had a good time throughout that 90 minutes. Now, like if you lose and it's a drab performance, there's nothing even to enjoy because the atmosphere is just terrible.
You wouldn't get messages, you wouldn't get pictures of 10 minutes after full time and everyone at the bar on social media back then after a loss, how you do now. Anton Glia Ferro 6532 says, honestly, these guys don't know what they are talking about. When an injury is recurring, it's fairly normal to get a second opinion and also seek out opinions from various specialists. This is in response to the criticism, I guess, about the medical team, what we will see in the update, about reports of obviously Richarlison now going to get, I guess, more advice externally off the back of Van de Ven doing that, and obviously Romero thanking the Argentinian national team physios rather than the Spurs medical advice. But he's saying it's fairly normal, he claims.
Potentially, but I feel like this is happening more at Spurs than anywhere else. I can't see any other club. I mean, obviously I don't follow every other club as closely as I follow Spurs, so it's hard to comment completely. But it just feels like the Spurs medical team have been failing for a long time. It's not just like in this moment, but I mean, it is hard for me to comment, but I don't hear anything about any other clubs with as many recurring injuries as we have.
Recurring injuries, no, but when it comes to external advice and
we don't know about that.
Seeking second opinions and stuff, I mean, I would envisage if it's a specialist issue, I wouldn't be surprised if
every issue at Spurs is a specialist issue now. Is that what it is?
Not every issue, but there's at least 3 of those players, because there were long-term injuries. Have been obviously Richarlison's injuries, not predate Tottenham, but predate the current manager. But he's been always having injuries for the last 3 years. We know Romero's had this. First of all, he has his thigh problem, which maybe has not recovered as quickly as I think we had hoped. Especially, I think the initial report for Romero was 6 weeks, wasn't it? And it turned out to be close to 4 months.
Yep.
And then Van de Ven has had these recurring hamstring issues.
But I feel like out of those 3, Van de Ven is the only one that was struggling with this specific injury before Tottenham. Everything else, it feels like it's happened at Tottenham, and Tottenham haven't been able to get them back fit on a consistent basis, and they keep breaking down.
Yeah, which is why they've looked for specialists, I guess. I don't know, but he's claiming it's fairly normal. I think it's hard to comment. DT7894 says, Poch, Conte, Mourinho all complained about the medical staff, and when I told people who want to blame the manager for everything that these injuries come down to poor medical staff, I was told I'm defending Ange. This mentality amongst the fans is part of the reason why the ownership is so comfortable with spitting in your faces.
Yeah, I mean, I do think when we're talking about, I mean, look, it's so hard to say, but I do think, in my opinion, that Ange, look, I don't think he's completely culpable for the injury crisis that we've been through, but I do think like he has had his hand to play in some of them. But yeah, I probably do agree that the medical staff is probably the first and foremost people that we need to look at. I mean, so many managers, like you mentioned, have complained about them over the past. We've changed The thing is, we've changed them and nothing seems to get better. That's the issue here. It's like, how can you keep changing medical staffs and the issue just doesn't seem to go away?
Same with the manager.
Yeah, that's also one common denominator.
Exactly. It all stems from the top. He's saying that the hierarchy are spitting in our faces. Michael Davidsky 7239 says, I'm not entirely sure what it will look like and who will be at the helm, and it means little, I suppose, for the here and now, but I actually feel excited about the future of this team, at least in terms of what could be some of the more fundamental parts that we're already seeing develop into mature Premier League players. Bergvall, Gray, Moore, Ajayi, Scarlett, Udogie and Spence.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of reason to be excited about these players coming through, for sure. We've got so much young talent coming through at this football club, and it's a very exciting time to look at the future. But you need something of the here and now to keep you excited as well in the meantime while we're waiting for these players. We don't know when these players are going to actually flourish. Obviously, you're seeing Bergvall flourish right now. You've seen Archie Gray come in and do a good job. But and you need the right manager to bring these players through and to nurture them and to make that step up into the first team. So there's a lot of reasons to be excited for in the future, but let's just hope we have the right team around them to make it and not another false dawn.
Yeah, that's obviously very important. But I agree. I'm very excited about these young players. Obviously, we have definitely signed a lot of these young players over the last couple of years, and it's going to take time for them to obviously get to their very best, a lot of them, and become what we want them to be. A lot of them are showing signs of being incredible talents and been improving as the season has gone on. But unfortunately, we're at a stage where at the moment, as much as these players are improving, the team at the moment is failing to get the results. And as much as I think a lot of fans can see the exciting young talent, it's hard to be happy with where the club is at overall at the moment, I think it's fair to say. Antoine Sencall 9076 says, I stand with Sim.
Oh, you found the one.
I found the one guy. I actually think he has sensible and balanced opinions about Ange and the team. People disguise what he says, but I think most of his takes are spot on. At this point, this fan base will use everything to dig at Ange. Before the game, everyone said we needed to rest our players for Thursday. He does it, then they blame him for picking the wrong midfield, even though it allowed Madders and Bergvall to rest and gave minutes to Basuma and Sarr, who could be in contention for Thursday because Bentancur is suspended. Plus, we need a physical midfield to compete with Bournemouth. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, look, I do agree with that to a certain extent. I did say after the game, I don't have too many problems with the changes because ultimately Sunday meant nothing really, let's be honest, and we need our players fit and firing for the game on Thursday, which means a lot in terms of the outlook of our season. So yeah, I didn't really have too many problems with it, but if you're looking at that game specifically, obviously we needed more creativity in the midfield to help us go and break down that Bournemouth team.
I think every game you need at least one, don't you? I think you can't just have three kind of players like we had. I mean, we saw it at Liverpool when we had those three midfielders. It was shocking, and we couldn't keep the ball for love nor money, and that's exactly the same thing that happened on Sunday for large parts until we got the likes of Bergvall, Maddison on the pitch, and all of a sudden it seemed to change a bit. So, but I guess at the moment it's difficult, kind of like in a normal situation you want to be able to criticise a manager for his selection because a manager should be picking the right team to kind of get results in specific games. But the situation we're in, it's like it's just like a different situation. I feel right now, it's like we can't, like Ange isn't in the space at the moment to just kind of pick and choose what kind of team to win the game at the moment. He's just trying to keep players fit for certain big games.
But we've also said, and a lot of people have said, it's time to prioritise the Europa League, and I think that's what this looks like.
Yeah, I agree. Scully Play 3992 says 3 very good fullbacks. What an absolute joke. LOL.
Well, we do have 3 good fullbacks, don't we? Spence is a very good fullback. Udogie is a good fullback, and Porro's a good fullback. I think Udogie, I mean, we haven't seen him in good form for a long time now, which is a bit concerning.
Well, he's been injured for a long time.
Yeah, his injuries, obviously, but even before his injury at the back end of last season, he wasn't on the greatest form, let's be real. So, yeah, they're all very young players, though. I mean, what's Porro like, 24?
Yeah, 24, 25.
24, 25. Udogie's like 22 or something. I mean, it's hard. It's easy to forget how young a doggy is because of what he's built like. But the doggy's very young. Spencer is young. Porro. But I think they're all very, very good players, and I think they've all got a very big future at Tottenham. So I don't think it's right to take the piss out of that. I think they are all good players in their own right.
I agree, and that's the point I was saying. I think in the review we do have 3 good fullbacks, and obviously Gray can play there as well at the moment. I don't know if he's going to continue to play there now. We've got Spence, who's kind of taken that role from him, but I think we do have 3 good fullbacks there. And at the moment, you know, the way the team is functioning, we are getting caught out on the wing back on the fullbacks. And it's definitely costing us on occasion, but I think for sure, those 3 players, definitely they've got bright futures, a lot of them, and I think they're all at the moment actually playing quite well. Obviously, Adogi's only just come back from injury, but I think a lot of it is to do with us getting caught out in transition, and everyone's just targeting that area directly, and it's about, I think, more of a system exposing those areas rather than them personally, like
exactly
being bad.
Exactly.
Era of Not Morrow 8767 says, I wish Sim was my boss, as if I would. I wish Sim were my boss, as I would be safe from sacking no matter how I perform.
Exactly.
Depends if I can see potential there or not. If I can see something to work with. Sometimes, you know, people need to be managed in a different way.
Every time you did something bad, Sim would just be like making excuses for you. Everyone around you was like, sack this guy, and Sim would just be sitting there, nah, don't worry, he's done this, he's done that. In the last 40 games, look at the game he had in that one particular game. You know,
shows
what
potential.
A game. What shows a potential. Game.
It depends. It depends on all context based. If I see you got the right intentions and there's something to work with, I'll keep you on.
As Conte would say, alibis, alibis, alibis.
Well, I'm not. I'm no one's. Well, I am people's boss, but and yeah, exactly. Sammy, you shouldn't say too much.
No wonder Sammy's still in a job.
John M506 says, Sim mate, what are you watching? We no longer recognisable from the team we were last season. We don't press anymore. We insist on playing the ball out consistently.
We always
did that.
We always did that, but I do agree with the pressing. I think even the last couple of games, I felt like the pressing has been like completely off. We don't hunt in packs anymore. It's kind of lazy press. One player goes sometimes and no one really backs them up. I just feel like the pressing structure has been completely off.
Yeah, I think definitely during the injury crisis, I agree with that. I think obviously since we've got some players back, I thought against United it was a bit better. And what other games have we had? Obviously Brentford, it was a different game. We didn't really press that much. It was more about us sitting deep.
Look at the RZ game.
RZ, yeah, wasn't
you know what I mean?
very good
8
pressing.
days rest. All these players, fatigue should not come into that whatsoever. And the pressing was just shocking.
What was the game before RZ? When
Man
we won?
City.
Man City, I thought the second half, the pressing was really good actually. I thought the second half, but first half, obviously, we definitely struggled.
It's too few and far between those.
Who was the game for City that we also won?
Ipswich.
Wasn't
great.
The pressing in that game, I thought at times it was good, but other times, obviously, right at the beginning of the game, it was bad. They played for us, but I thought once we got into the game, it was actually not bad. I thought the pressing against United was pretty good, actually, if I remember rightly. I thought they actually, especially in the first half, I remember they were really struggling to play through it.
But it's too few and far between for me. It's not consistent enough, our press. And we can look good at it maybe for like a moment in a game. But in terms of the structure, what it's like on a consistent basis, it's not good enough.
I thought in the beginning of the season, actually, our press was incredible. I thought it was much better than it actually even was last season, our pressing at the beginning of the season, before, obviously, we lost a lot of players. But yeah, I agree. It needs to improve. Definitely needs to improve. And I think, especially if you're taking the last few months, for sure, the pressing has been really, really bad, to be honest. And that's something that he needs to fix for sure if we're going to get back to any sort of form. Michael Hemmings 6785 says, Yo, Ben, what's it going to take to sack Sim?
But it's funny you should say that, actually. I've got the P45 ready right in my bag, just haven't given it to him yet.
Give me a good severance.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah?
You're my brother, how could I not?
You're going to sort me out.
I look after you.
All right, fine.
Who do you want me to replace him with? Let us know in the comment section below.
John Boy 3931 says Sim is a dreamer. How he sees what he seemingly alone sees just beggars belief.
You and me both, my friend.
What do I see? What am I seeing that no one else sees?
I don't know. You see the need to keep making excuses, Mr. Ange Postecoglou.
It's reasons, not excuses.
It's excuses.
It's reasons. Explain things. I don't like just to say it's all rubbish and not try and actually look a bit deeper at things. I try to find reasons why things have happened. And
try very, very, very hard. That's what you do.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the right thing to do. That's how I approach things. I don't like to just see something happen and say it's all rubbish, blah, 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 just throw it all away. And look, and as I've always said, come the end of the season, we'll probably have to make a decision there.
It might come a lot sooner than the end of the season,
Might do.
friend.
Might do. Maybe we'll see what happens on Thursday. I think we need to win that game on Thursday for sure.
Because you could potentially be 2 days away from being Ange out.
Could be, but also we could also win.
And if you are Ange out at that point in time, I've seen a lot of comments asking for an apology. So we'll wait and see if it happens.
I'm not apologising to no one. I'm not apologising for nothing. For having my opinion. Why should I apologise for that? No need to say sorry. But if he goes out, then that's it. He has to go. We should be winning that game for sure. And I think as well, it's very important for the belief of not just the team, but the fan base. It's very important that we at least show we can beat a team like RZ in a European knockout and at least get to a quarter-final. Like, that's the bare minimum. So I think that's something that he needs to do for sure on Thursday. But I believe we will win. I'm confident.
Is, though, with what you're saying about Ange and finding all these reasons and whatever you say over the course of the season, surely, like, if you believe that he's a good manager and you believe that he can do a good job at this football club, then even going out on Thursday night, then do you not think that, getting better players in the summer, he can go again next season and still do a good job?
Yeah, I do, to be honest.
So why would you want him out if we lose on Thursday then?
Because I think the whole situation is just too toxic, and I think he would lost the belief of everyone. And I think there's not much for this season as well, with 10 games to go. For the season to be over at that point would be too much for the fan base to take, and at that point you're better off just starting anew and maybe probably going in a different direction. Look, I personally would give him to the end of the season still, even if we go out on Thursday, and see what the last 10 games give, because I don't see the point in sacking him on Thursday, to be honest. But I would say at this point, if he loses on Thursday, I don't really see the point keeping him beyond the end of the season.
Sacking him on Thursday and sacking him at the end of the season is the same thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
But it's a different date.
It's a different date, but that's about all it matters, because season's over on Thursday if we lose.
For sure.
So what's the difference?
Just give him the last 10 games. Just see if he can get any sort of form in the league. But I don't think it makes a difference. But I still would, because I don't see the point sacking him now, unless you just want to. I don't know. You think it's too toxic to keep him, but I would just give him to the end of the season, even if we lose on Thursday. But I think at that point, unless we literally win all 10 games, I think he probably needs to go.
9 games.
9 games and a draw.
8 games.
8 games and 2 draws.
7 games.
Look, it depends how we're playing. It depends all the different things. But look, it'll be obviously if we have a really strong end to the season and it seems as though we're building some sort of momentum, then maybe he would maybe that conversation would be different. But right now, I would say if you lose on Thursday and the form that we're on or performance level continues, I think he's got to go.
All right. Well, there you have it. That is your comments being reacted to this week. Check again next week as we'll be reacting to your comments, and leave your best comments in all our various videos and we'll pick out the best ones and react to them. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.